The speaker series is designed to increase awareness of different types of investors and investments. And we normally invite regional, international, and local investors to come and talk about their knowledge and experience in investing. And we also invite Iraqi and regional founders to discuss their success stories. So this month's panel will look into female founder representation in Iraq and the challenges faced as a founder, areas of opportunity, and suggested solutions. I'm pleased to present to you Zahra Shah from Iraqi Innovators, Khadija Abdul-Nabi from Ya Khadijah, Aryan Mohammed from Full Stop, and Darea Jalal from Dali. In today's panel will be an hour long. We're going to leave 15 minutes for a Q&A with the audience. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn so you learn more about our sessions. All right, ladies. Khadija, would you like to take it from here?
Sure. Can you all hear me? Okay, perfect. I'm going to introduce myself real quick. My name is Khadija. I'm a graphic designer. I am born and raised in New York. My father is from Baghdad. My mom is from Tunis, and I came to Erbil 10 years ago. I have been really interested in graphic design. I switched careers when I was 30. I used to work in the NGO education field before then. And I'm really passionate about authentic cultural graphic design. And actually Zahra and Daria are my first clients when I first started the studio. So greatness sees greatness. And I'm really honored to be here, to be among these women. Thank you, 51 Labs. I'm going to pass it to Zahra.
Thank you, Khadija. So I was born and raised in London, but I'm originally Pakistani. I spent the last 8 years working across the Swana region in Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, and the Gulf, mainly in entrepreneurship programming and international development. I started Iraqi Innovators because I wanted to create an organization that put Iraqis first and took a decolonial approach to international development. And that is 3 years now down the line, but still kind of our ultimate goal is to open a women's only trading space. So fingers crossed, but it's really exciting to be a part of this topic, and the topic we're so passionate about, always writing about, documenting, and hopefully see progress in this area. Thank you, Azza, for organizing this.
Thank you for attending. Aryan, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah, hello, I'm Aryan. I have born and raised in Kurdistan, Erbil, and I have graduated from Salahuddin Uni English Department in 2016. So after graduation, I have started working in the translation sector because I was passionate about being a translator always. I wanted to work in something that I love and enjoy doing it. So after 2 years of working as a freelance translator, I have got my official ID from the Ministry of Justice as a sworn translator. And then 2 years more, I worked as a certified translator. And then in 2021, I have started my own startup, which is Full Stop Company for certified translation services. And I have participated in some business training programs, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Aryan. And last but not least, Daria.
Thank you for having me, first of all. I am Darea Jalal Ali. I am the founder, designer, and the creative director for the Dali Store. I am born and bred in Slemani City. I graduated from international studies, and I switched career before turning 30, when I was 29, and from service offices to a business owner and designer. And thank you for having me again here.
Okay, so let's get into the juicy part. First of all, Khadija, can you tell me a little bit about your startup or about your foundation, Iraqi Innovators, and what motivated you to open your own business?
Are you me?
Yes.
Okay, because you said Iraqi Innovators. That's
Oh,
Zahra.
sorry.
No worries. So I started Ya Khadijah in 2017 after I switched careers because I found that in the region, it's really hard to work with a designer that has a full creative process that's really intentional. And I was like, why not just start my own thing? Not knowing how hard it would be and how difficult it would be to kind of really establish a presence, because I could see that there were a lot of guys doing it. Yani, they would just, partner up as friends and then have an agency in a few days. But what we were trying to create was a lot more intentional design that was around deep research, understanding of a culture, understanding of a people, and really creating custom-made identities. So for me, the importance of bringing a studio like what I envisioned to the region was something of a life, kind of like a life goal. I wanted Iraq to really be put back on the map as a center for design, as it once was in the 70s and 80s. Iraq used to be the leading, kind of like in Baghdad, they used to have a lot of design that basically spearheaded what we know as design in the Middle East today. And I wanted to put it back on the map. And by creating this studio, it really helps me work with other studios to understand, what is design all about in Iraq right now? Are we designing culture or corporations, or what does the ecosystem look like? How are people learning? And so for me, it's really important to kind of add to that ecosystem instead of just creating a business to make an income.
Thank you. We're going to get back to some of the things you just talked about. But now I would like Aryan, if you can tell us a little bit also about your startup and what motivated you to open your own business.
Yep. My startup, which is Full Stop Company, offers the first innovative online platform that digitalized and simplified the way to access certified translation services. So, like customers can access to certified translation services in less than 3 minutes, rather than the old-fashioned way, which they were like obliged to go for offices and offline bazaar. And they can access our website to get benefit from like our offers and bundles. So what motivated me was that when I was working in the translation sector, like since I'm like a natural born leader, and I got inspired to start my own business, and I have felt the gap and realized the gap that exists in the market. So I just said, why not doing something innovative? And because I'm passionate about doing like new things and having an impact on the community. So I have started working on my startup in 2021 by participating in the tech incubator from Fiverr Labs, and then I got improved and developed the business until today. Yeah.
Thank you, Aryan.
Thank you.
Daria, can you also tell us a little bit about your startup and your motivations for opening your own business?
The Dali Store originally started as Dali Designs. And we started as a local jewelry brand, handmade jewelry brand. And now in 2021, the Dali Store is a Kurdish brand registered and operated in Luxembourg. We sell internationally and locally. We have a selling point in Mr. Erbil, and proudly we design and produce, manufacture our own designs, our own products. What motivated me to start this business, as ironic as it will sound, but it was actually lack of opportunity. From very early ages, I knew what I am passionate about. I knew that I want to be fashion field, but never found the opportunity. I couldn't study it. I couldn't work in this field simply because it didn't exist. I completely lost hope after graduating from high school. Instead of studying fashion, I studied international studies. I graduated, started working for a couple of years. I had a very successful career path in front of me. However, it was not fulfilling. So I decided to start my own business. I did a lot of researches, a lot of reading. Unfortunately, it was all very discouraging because they all suggested investment, financial investment in if you want to create a fashion line. As a young person who's building a career and building a personal life, investment was not an option for me. I read one article and one specific quotation really inspired me and get me going, was that your startup doesn't have to be perfect. And indeed, I did start very imperfectly. I handmade jewelries with very humble raw materials. I delivered the jewelries with my husband after our 9-to-5 job. And I am so glad that I did that, even if it was imperfect. This imperfection start led me to now. It led me to bring my vision to life, actually design what I envisioned and manufacture it and produce our own product. So what I'm just trying to say is simply lack of opportunity where I come from motivated me, was my biggest motivation to start a business.
Thank you, Daria. Actually, you brought up a point saying that you found it that it wasn't suitable for you to take financial investment. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs who probably want to take a similar path to yours and not necessarily take financing or funding from an institutional fund. So can you tell me, how did you do it? What did you do? Was it your own personal money? Was it friends and family? Can you just take me a little bit, tell me about that?
Yes, and I'm glad that you asked that question, because on daily basis, we receive a lot of messages from entrepreneurs asking us to guide them, even though this is not our job, we are a business. Our main our main reason to answer these messages is to take orders, and I feel so bad not to answer them, but I'm glad that you asked this question. I actually didn't invest a very big amount of money in this business. As I mentioned from the beginning, I started very, very small. And in the same time, I was working 9 to 5 is just a name for a full-time business, but I was working 9 to 7. What simply I did, I went to the local bazaar and I picked things that has never been used in that way. And so what actually led me to success was not a financial investment. It was just it was not even working hard, it was working smart, picking things that has never been used before. So for example, one of the things that we chose to use in our product was Qazwan. This product, it was only used, even if it is a cultural thing, it was only used by men, but we created women accessories with it, even though it was very hard for the society to understand this product. It's the most selling products that we have. So what my advice for young starters who want to start very small, start very differently. Believe in your ideas, even if the first time doesn't work. Believe in yourself, continue progressing yourself. I think that's the main way to success. It's to work smart and to be different. There are a lot of gaps. There are a lot of opportunity in Iraq, no matter how economically how difficult it is, how unstable it is. But there are a lot of gaps and there's a lot of opportunity, and you do not have to have a financial support or any kind of support. To be honest with you, the only person who believed in me was my husband, even though my family are very, very supportive. But in the beginning, it was very hard for them to understand my goals and my plan. And I'm mentioning this because I want this to be beneficial for young generation. And they have enough obstacles in the society, so they don't have to create more obstacles for themselves. So financial obstacles should not be an obstacle for you if you have a good idea start.
Thank you, Daria. So we sort of jumped way ahead, but
Right.
I couldn't not ask you that question. So thank you. But I want to put a context to also what we're talking right now. Female founders in general have only secured 2% of venture capital in the US in 2021, 2%. In the MENA region, a study done by Magnet in 2020 reported that only 14% of startups were female founded, and that there are no entrepreneurship figures in Iraq, but the World Bank reported in 2020 that less than 15% of Iraqi women were employed. So this makes Iraq one of the countries with the lowest female workforce participation. And Zahra, you've been covering this topic a lot on your platform, female labor force participation and entrepreneurship representation in Iraq. So can you share with us some of your insights and some of the background on this topic?
Sure. I mean, it's such a huge and multifaceted challenge when it comes to women's participation in the workforce. And as Daria said, and she covered a lot of the main issues, there are just in general less opportunities for women. There's less financial support, there's less moral support. But I think when we take away the obvious cultural barriers and the lack of infrastructure and all of that stuff, looking at just the educational aspect of it, I think it was UNESCO in 2019 published a report saying that 26% of Iraqi women are illiterate, which is extremely high. And then that percentage is closer to 50% in rural areas. So before we talk about the workforce and entrepreneurship, we actually need to tackle the root causes if we want to increase women's participation in these areas. How can we encourage literacy? And then how can we encourage digital literacy? Because these are two areas that are really lacking. And then there's more to it as well. Like we need more sort of women role models, women like Aryan and Daria to kind of go to these spaces and talk about their journeys with younger girls, give them someone to look up to, and find a way to also encourage families to support daughters into different, more unconventional methods of work. So there is so much that can be done and that needs to be done. But even just at a grassroots level, having those female role models to go to schools or just like general spaces and become those role models, it would make such a huge impact because it provides a different outlook for young women and girls.
Thank you, Zahra. So like you said, it's a multifaceted thing and culture always plays a big role. But from the positive side, what kind of gaps can Iraqi female founders fill within the market?
Where to start? There's so many gaps when it comes to even just services for women that can sometimes be challenging and solutions that are needed. Ladigo was a great example of this in Baghdad. They were solving the biggest problem of safety and security for women using taxis. And they were able to provide women with a safe taxi option whilst also providing jobs to women as captains. So female founders are in such a unique and prime position to create solutions for women-only problems. Another example is just like, how safe do you feel walking alone at home, walking alone at night, going home or going wherever? There could be an app to track your location and share it with your family. I mean, there's so many options there, but women are really in the best place to create those solutions that are not just unique to Iraq or Kurdistan, but issues that are faced by women all over the world. So really, like, scalable solutions are very a huge opportunity there. But I think it's just that we need to encourage also confidence in women to take that leap. And even if it fails, it's okay.
So Zahra just touched upon digital literacy. And Khadija, I would like to ask you, you used to work with Recoded, and in your experience, is there a lack of gender diversity when it comes to tech and digital? And what do you think can be done to balance this out? And how would a more representative tech market empower women?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if everybody else knows, but me and Zahra used to work at Recoded. We overlapped for 3 days, and I was gutted because I found her as like the most fantastic being. And after 3 days, I had to say goodbye to her. But there is a huge gap, and I think it's all over the world. But like, if we focus on it in Iraq, the ecosystem, and this is kind of why I opened my studio, the ecosystem doesn't allow for the way that women socialize and connect and network for us to get the skills that we need. So like, I'll break it down for you in very understandable terms. Males gather together in the little coffee houses, the shops, each other's houses. They have more like a better freedom to like move around and see each other. And therefore they can pick up a lot more skills and things like, you know, some fulan needs a job, or like, it's much easier because their fabric of networking is much stronger in a society like ours. So like, women, not because they're less skilled or less knowledgeable or less, no, they just lack the opportunities that the men have, because there are not that many opportunities for networking, exchanging ideas, unless you're in like a university. And also thinking culturally speaking, here, it's changing, but like, you know, when you get to college, after college, the kind of ideas that you kind of get married, and career is really not the main priority. And so, and that is shifting a lot. And I think with programs like Recoded, Iraqi Innovators, 51 Labs, like, we're seeing that there's more spaces just for women to be able to try things out. And I think that that's what's most important. They don't need to figure it all out. They don't need to like, you know, plan out their next 5 to 10 years, but they need the space to like, hey, maybe I can do coding. What is it? Maybe I can do design. Maybe I can do this. Maybe, and just that like space to be able to network, exchange ideas is super, super important. And I think, you know, I have a feeling in the near future that Zahra is going to create something like this. But this is the main, from my point of view, the main reason for the inequality, because the women are super eager, they have ideas, they're super skilled, especially the ones that we saw in the boot camp, the ones that are in Zahra's courses for copywriting, super talented, and they need an opportunity, and that opportunity can only come from networking and a safe space to do so.
So what I've been hearing a lot is the issue of cultural norms and how we've been socialized. So I hear that a lot. And Daria, how do you think women inside the ecosystem can support each other? What can we do to, you know, hold each other up?
I think in the past few years, with the new generation building their businesses, I see a lot of women supporting each other. And from my own experience, I do receive a lot of support from other women entrepreneurs or other women in general. And as entrepreneurs, I have a very good example of women supporting each other. 2019, with four other entrepreneurs, I am proud to call them friends, we organized an expo. It was called Startup Expo. We collected a variety of talented entrepreneurs in different fields, in different areas from Iraq. And we created a bazaar, but we also managed a panel for exchanging ideas for the entrepreneurs who already started their business to inspire other young the audience, which were all very young people who were inspired by one of or a few businesses in that expo. And we also invited a lawyer to explain the registration process to help them. To help the businesses to either start their businesses, or if they have not registered their business and started already. But beside all this success, there was a lot of obstacles, there was a lot of challenge to find fund, to find a venue, to pay for the venue. We actually had to, the last minute, we had to change the venue time, the event time and the date because of a governmental event. Now, I'm not expecting the government to support me completely, but I'm not expecting them to stand in my way, especially as a female entrepreneur. So there are women who are supporting each other, even though I don't think we have created that environment completely. We know each other mostly on social media, or the entrepreneurs are friends, so it's not a regular interaction. As Khadija said, there is no social interaction between entrepreneurs that would be something regular. It could be improved, but I think there is a very good support among female entrepreneurs in Iraq in general, in Kurdistan specifically.
Thank you for that. Aryan, I would like to hear your views. So what are the biggest challenges faced by female entrepreneurs? But maybe you can talk about it from your perspective as an entrepreneur for yourself. So what have you faced? Was it lack of access to funding? Was it social expectations, or trying to balance family life and business? As they mentioned before, the networking is all led by males, and they have most of the networking capacity. So what is it that you've been facing?
Yeah, so as we are located in the Middle East, and more especially Iraq, that's a male-dominated community. So that's obvious. We are facing many challenges as female entrepreneurs, because, for example, in the terms of networking, it is a big challenge for female founders to do, to make a circle of networkers, to do networking, because some men don't believe in a woman. Very simply, they don't believe in women. And even some other businesses, they refuse to access your services just because you are a woman, or maybe they don't believe in your services because you are a startup. And that may be wrong, and that may be vice versa, because you started the business passionately, you might provide even better services than the current service providers. So these challenges that we are facing, that's obvious. And another challenge is maybe even most of us that we have started our own businesses, even our families and friends don't support or don't believe in us just because we are a woman. And that's all about the mindset that we have learned in our community. Just because we are a woman, they see us in a less skilled person or less skilled than males. So these are the biggest challenges that we are facing nowadays.
Can you tell me a little bit, when you were faced by whether it was male vendors or male customers, how did you deal with this situation? Did you confront them, or did you look somewhere else? I just want to know what the dynamic was like.
Yeah, so we need to do networking, because especially, for example, sometimes you have to find a mentor or you have to do like to make important decisions. So in this, you need a mentor or you need someone to consult with. So that might be a problem because they are trying to take advantage of this just because you are a woman, or even sometimes the customers they try to take advantage of this opportunity that just because you are a woman. So all I have to do is just like staying professional and trying to face the problem, trying to be confident and just staying professional and do my job and don't care about the other things that I'm facing.
Sorry, and how did you deal with your family and your friends' resistance to the idea of a startup? What were they resisting? Is it because you should just get a regular 9-to-5 job, or is it because you need to stay at home and maybe follow a traditional life of getting married, having a kid right now? So what kind of resistance was it, and how did you deal with it?
To be honest, personally, my family and friends, they don't resist. They neither resist and neither, nor support. So that's normal. I'm free, whatever that I'm doing it. But in our community, that all we have been understood like this, we have to go with the flow. We have to go with the community. Whatever they are doing it, we have to do the same. But that's not correct. We have to follow our passion and our dreams. So instead of just going with the flow, we have to do whatever that we are enjoy doing it. So we have to be confident and try. That's the only solution that we can have it. Just keep trying and be confident.
Thank you, Aryan. Zahra, I'd like to hear your thoughts of how do you feel that the Iraqi entrepreneurship scene has matured over the years in terms of offering female founders support and opportunities. From your experience, what have you seen happening?
There's definitely, I mean, the ecosystem in general has grown so much in the last 5 years. When it comes to female founders specifically, there are more programs in place. 51 Labs has one. There's a couple of others. But there's still a long way to go. I mean, this is a 40 million plus population. There's plenty of room for more of these type of programs, more support. It would be really cool to see more women-focused programs in terms of not just training, but funding, also space. As Khadija was saying, that's such a crucial element that's kind of the missing block. But also taking a very tailored approach based on the city and the locale that you're operating in, because maybe a woman in Najaf wouldn't be treated the same as a woman in Erbil. There are different limitations that each face. So having that localized approach is still missing, but there is, if I compare what's been happening in the last few years, there is growth year on year. But we still need a lot more funding and a lot more support in this area. And there's a lot of roles that each sector can play in this. So as I was mentioning earlier about having role models go into schools and talking to young girls, I mean, the academic institution take more of a lead in Aryan and Daria to come to these spaces and speak.
Sorry, Zahra.
To people.
Zahra, you're cutting, so we're missing a lot of your insights
inside the company. That is really beneficial.
Hi, Zahra.
Sorry, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. We missed a lot of your insights. So the last thing I think I heard was saying how academia and education can support, but then after that, Zahra is gone.
Okay, I'm here. I've just switched off my video, so that should hopefully improve the connection.
Okay, great.
So yeah, academia, as in, invite these role models into the schools, into universities to speak and plant those seeds at a young age. Then if we look at the private sector, there are a lot of initiatives in some of the startups and companies where they have like women-focused initiatives and programs and employability figures that they want to reach, KPIs that they want to reach. But we need to increase this a lot more. And the social media aspect of promoting this, I feel really helps. We've seen like Miss Wag and Zayn do this online. And I think that's a really good way to inspire other companies to do the same. But again, still a long way to go. And then if you look at like on a policy level, there are some policies in place to protect women in the workplace and, you know, provide maternity leave and all of these things. But whether they're actually followed is an entirely changes their accountability and the rule of law is followed. Policy changes might not do anything, but I think from a private sector perspective, they could actually do a lot more in setting a trend in terms of setting policies that are supportive of women to join the workforce and start their own businesses. I think one really good example is in the UAE, they're allowing 1 year leave for employees to start their own business. And so they get paid for that 1 year and they're encouraged to start their own companies and hire people, etc. Something like that just from private sector would be amazing.
There's always this discussion whether these kinds of initiatives and policies should be public sector led or private sector led. And usually the private sector is probably 2 steps forward. So definitely the companies are more international and they know what's happening in other markets. So it's easier for them to get these ideas and start implementing them. Thank you, Zahra. So let's see, Daria, what are the main drivers for an Iraqi female to start her own business? I feel we've covered that. What do you think, what advice would you give to women launching their own business, Daria?
There are a lot of advice that I could give. But the main advice is as I mentioned before, there are a lot of obstacles for entrepreneurs in general, not just female, but entrepreneurs in general. They could face a lot of issues, a lot of obstacles. But as a person, I think you have to believe in your ideas. Your idea has to be original, and start implementing it, even if it is not perfect, even if it is not according to the book. You can do it in a conventional way, and consistency. I think it's the key. Keep consistent, keep going, one thing that I would like to mention is that for us female entrepreneurs in Iraq and in Kurdistan, we do not have a specific role model who built their businesses from scratch and grew it. So I think that's the main thing that we face, is that we do not have a clear process. We do not have a clear footstep to follow, and that's I always think about that, and that doesn't exist because of the social stigma that we have. And I think that's the biggest challenge for female entrepreneurs, especially for someone who is in the designing and the creative side, because it is more looked at as a hobby, not as a business. And again, the stigma exists because of not having a role model, because even though we had a lot of female entrepreneurs, female business owners throughout history, but their business, or they are entrepreneurs because out of necessity. The businesses that they built, it's more of a temporarily macroeconomic gain. It's not the business is not built to continue to grow and to depend on it. And that's why we do not have a female role model to follow. And I hope we, as the young entrepreneur, we would be the footstep that we would create a clear footstep for the younger generation, so they would not face the same challenge that we are facing. Yeah, I think I hope I'm answering your question.
So you spoke a lot about role models and having somebody to look up to, and probably a formula that was successful. There might not be a lot of big names. There might be one or two, but is there anybody that you found to be inspiring, or at least, gave you some hope?
To be honest with you, of course there are role models, but as role model business owners, I haven't seen any. I remember my mother in the 90s, the things that she needed, she would go for business owners, but did they continue? Did they grow their businesses? I haven't seen any. I wish someone would invite me and tell me, no, there is this person, and I'm sure there is, but it's not the same thing as now. For nowadays, we haven't seen anyone in the world of social media, in the new world. We haven't seen anyone who have built the footsteps that we could follow. I wish there was, and I think that what makes it difficult for female entrepreneurs in general to build their business. We are kind of creating our own path. Like I said, I wanted to work in the fashion field. I knew from very early age, which is not something easy to know. Now that I think about the young Darea, I am proud of, but I created that opportunity that it was missing in where I come from. So it is very challenging not to have a role model. It is not in like the developed countries that you would have a role model. Oh, this is this person, it's my role model. I'm gonna follow her footstep, and I will work hard, I will work smart, and I will succeed. You don't know, but yeah, I think I hope we would be able to create that path for the younger generation, so they would have a more clear path, and that would not be a challenge for them.
Thank you, Daria. I think we have time for one more question before we open the stage for the audience. But I'd like to ask you, Khadija, what do you think can change when it comes to the recruitment of women into businesses or startups? What can companies do better to attract and nurture female talent?
So there's so many things like Zahra was saying, but I think first and foremost, it starts with the females ourselves. We need to be a lot more confident in taking risks and failing and looking stupid. I don't think there's a lot of space in this culture, at least especially for females, to like make mistakes. So we sometimes tend to just play it safe and not apply to a job because we have only 7 out of the 10 things required, not speak to that person because they seem so accomplished and I'm not. I still do this to this day, and I have to consciously take myself out of this mindset of just being courageous and going for the opportunities, because it's not a very forgiving environment. So I think first and foremost, to build confidence, you need to practice doing that thing over and over. And for that to happen, you really need a great support network, which I am still working on to this day. Like sometimes there are days when it becomes so hard to be an entrepreneur. And I think like what Dadi was saying, there really is no game plan. Like first world or third world, it's entrepreneur for a reason. You're literally going naked out into the world and you're going to be shot. You're going to be run over. You're going to be like, so the support system is really important. And I very rarely reach out to other female business owners because I always feel like, they're doing great. I'm the one suffering. I'm the one probably making a big mess. But like when I actually have those conversations, the other woman's like, no, it's absolutely a shit show. Like, I don't know, like, really? I'm shit show too. Are you shit show? And like, when you know that somebody else is struggling and you're not the only one, it kind of makes your life a little bit easier. You're like, okay, I can do this next week. I can reach out. I think for females, what is our biggest skill is our ability to communicate and collaborate. And I truly believe that in the depths of my heart. It's not just gender. I think it's just a general energy. But we have to lean into that. So we do things differently than, let's say, a masculine energy would. And so we have to reinterpret what that would mean for us. So to answer your question, go out there and say that you're a badass and go for those connections, the people, like try it out. So what? You hear a no. So what? It doesn't work out. You have to keep building that muscle, just as if you were to go to the gym or just as if you were trying to build a skill. So I think that's my biggest, like, it's in our hands. It's not really something outside. I'm not going to beg other people, no, hire women because we're great. We are fucking great. You know that. But I have to convince you that I am worth your time by proving to myself that I'm worthy, and stuff like that.
Thank you for that. So now I want to see anybody from the audience would like to ask these lovely ladies any questions. Are you facing anything similar to them? If you're entrepreneurs, what advice do you need? You can just type it in the Q&A box, or if you want in the chat box, type your questions. And also, if we have any live questions from Facebook, please share them with us. Okay, well, if nobody wants to ask any questions, I have more questions. Aryan, what do you think can change the situation of female entrepreneurs in terms of fundraising and in terms of being successful? So do we need more female investors, or do we need more social awareness, more cultural support, more government support? What do you think would help in terms of fundraising?
Yep. Like all entrepreneurs, not only female entrepreneurs, like facing like fundraising challenges. I think from the private sector and even the government sector, and the one that who are in charge, like every year they are repeating and saying the same thing, the same problem over and over without like taking serious step or without taking action. So for example, in the government sector, we don't have any support. We are facing like many challenges, many problems in the business registration. So they are like treating as the big companies or the millionaires. So, but that's not should be like this, because we are a very like in a very like early stage. We have to be treated differently. Like there needs to be some support for entrepreneurs. And even in the private sector, you cannot find a bank, even a bank, to give you a loan just to improve or like start your own startup. Even if there is a bank to like provide you a loan, there is more like a lot of conditions that you cannot manage it. So I think all that we have right now is only like some NGOs, and for example, there are Tech Queen, 5 Labs, or some others. Like they are providing business trainings and sometimes some like fundraising and sometimes like connecting them with investors. But these are very few opportunities because like the competition is very high. There are like a lot of young entrepreneurs, even female entrepreneurs. So the competition is high and the chances are low. So there should be more chances by the government and the private sector, the NGOs. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I just got a question, and it's, do you think religion or culture has been an obstacle or an issue for businesswomen in Kurdistan? And if not, why do we see lower numbers of businesswomen in Erbil than Duhok?
Sorry, the question was for me, right?
Anyone, if you want to answer it, go ahead, or anyone.
Yeah, I think it affects because we are in a religious like community, so like many families maybe won't support the woman or female founders, or they even may resist the steps that they are want to take. So because as I said, they think the females or even their girls, their daughters should take the same road that they have been took. So maybe they resist, and that affects, I think. That's my opinion.
I think, okay.
Yeah, please go ahead, Zahra.
Yeah, I think definitely not just the religion is cultural, because religion does affect the culture as well, right? So I think the culture does affect, since it is involved in social media, and it involves dealing with the customers, with merchandise, and of course, I think religion and culture does affect participation of female entrepreneurs. So but I do not, I didn't understand that part about having more entrepreneurs in Erbil than Duhok. I don't know where did they get this number, or if there is a number.
I'm not sure, but you just mentioned culture again, and somebody is asking, speaking of role models, I think not everyone is willing to share their experiences, especially ladies in our culture. I wonder if you have faced the same situation.
Not for females, not sharing their
experiences. So it seems like maybe we don't hear of success because sometimes the founders don't talk about it, or they culturally they don't share these experiences.
I wish if there is any, which I am very sure there is, but if they are young and they have a social media, somehow they could share it. In older generation, I'm sure there is, but they never had the opportunity to share their experience, which is such a shame, because we all need that inspiration, right? We all need inspiration. We need someone to look at and follow their footsteps. But not sharing experience, I don't think it is part of the culture right now. But in the older generation, maybe they do not have the platform to share their experience.
So another question from the audience is, do you think it is possible to do a full-time job and have your own business?
I will answer this question because I worked full-time for like 6 years. I just went only studio this January. So before that, we always, yay! It's a whole other shit show, by the way. Like, anyway, Muhem, you can do it. Just, you're going to work really hard. You have to make a lot of sacrifices. I sacrificed friends. I sacrificed social time. I sacrificed my mental health. You should do that. But if you have the determination, the full-time job sometimes does that funding that Aryan was talking about. That's so hard to get. Like nobody's really, the funding, the access to funding is super, super difficult. And even if you do the smaller funding that is accessible here, there's almost so much paperwork or like so much you need to do to access that. So sometimes a full-time job. But know this, you will exchange, is an exchange of energy and time for money. So be very conscious of like how you're doing this. But can you do it? Yeah, up to you. Will it open up a can of worms in your mental health? And like, of course it will. So like, it's a journey on all fronts, this entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think that specific topic is something that can have a whole hour discussion. Another question is, have you been judged before, not just as a female, but about your unique business presented in the market or to investors?
I will say, can I just say just a little bit and then somebody else can answer? Because like Zahra has not spoken. But I just want to say one thing. Yes, because people think graphic design is just designing a logo and making a color. And so when you start to present your prices and like your process, I have had the most humiliating situations, especially with men. I don't know if it's like, I mean, we're not saying all men, but there's these nasty, egotistical like men, especially in the beginning, that really use terrible, like gaslighting and mental things to just be like, who are you? Why are you asking? Aslan, why are you wasting my time with these questions? And so the answer to that is yes. And it's terrible, but it's brilliant because it really shifts your mindset to understand how to separate yourself from the thing that you're selling or the thing that you're doing, which is, I think, personally has been very hard for me. So now I'm going to shut up and give it to Zahra because she probably has better things to say.
No, I mean, it's so true. You will come across all types of people if you take on this journey, and it's a default that you will be judged by anyone and everyone. And it's not always a bad judgment necessarily. Some people are just coming in with their own view of why they would want to get involved with what you're doing. So for example, an investor, they're looking at the viability of your business, how much money they're going to make. Is Iraq a country that they can even invest in? Does it have X, Y, Z? So it might not always be that your idea is bad and people are judging you and all of that. They might just be like, you know what, your idea might be great, but it's not going to make me money. So sorry, I'm not going to be able to help you. It is very discouraging. It is really hard to sell what you're trying to do to people that may not understand. I've been there. I'm still being there. I'm still there. It's just that you have to keep going, and there will be those glimpses of hope. There will be people, in every 100 people that you talk to, there will be 5, 10 people to say, your idea is amazing. I think it could work. And there needs to be the honesty as well. So I think it's just that you're going to be always put in a vulnerable place. You will be judged. People will give you criticism that you didn't ask for. It will be helpful. It won't be helpful. But you have to kind of learn to understand what is useful to you and what is not, and what other people's motivations are, what's in it for them. And when you learn that, then you'll also realize that not everything is kind of against you or malicious. It's just the way people are, and that we all come from different walks of life with different priorities.
Thank you, Zahra, and thank you, ladies. This is our time. And if anybody would like to add one more thing, we only have a minute left, so go ahead. Last words of wisdom.
Don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're here to help. Yes, sometimes we get overwhelmed. Yes, it is too much for us, but you never know. Sometimes it's works out and we give you kind of like that inspiration, because I think I would have really liked to hear it from somebody. And don't think that I'm way ahead of you. I'm just a few steps ahead, walking through the same shit. So reach out to us if you need support, if you need to hear something. And you got this, Paiting.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Daria. Thank you, Aryan. Thank you, Zahra and Khadija. I really appreciate our discussion today. I'm sure everybody found it super insightful.
Thank you so much.
And like Khadija said, reach out. Feel
Thank
free to reach out.
for having us.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.